kid from Santa Barbara called David Crosby. A lecherous teddy bear with a playful brain, David warbled plangent protest songs in emulation of Woody Guthrie. Herbie Cohen, with the help of his lawyer brother, Mutt, ruled the acoustic demimonde in Hollywood. His avuncular exterior concealed a streak of pure ruthlessness. Herbie was a lot scarier than people would think, says folk singer Jerry Yester. They'd think he was a kind of pudgy Jewish guy, but he was absolutely terrifying in conflict. In his way, Doug Weston was no less ruthless than Cohen. At 6'6", he towered over everybody. "Tallest queer I ever knew," says actor Ted Markland. Weston's sexual preferences were an industry secret. What wasn't secret was his canny practice of tying artists to contracts that obliged them to return to the cramped Troubadour long after they were big enough to sell out amphitheaters. For all the lip service it paid to folk protest, the Troubadour always had one beady eye on success. The clubhouse for the more commercial folk music epitomized by the Kingston Trio, it rapidly became a hootenanny hotbed of vaunting ambition. Pointedly different was Ed Pearl's club, the Ash Grove, which had opened at 8162 Melrose Avenue in July 1958. LA's self-appointed bastion of tradition, the Ash Grove held fast to notions of not selling out. It was where you went to hear Doc Watson and Sleepy John Estes, blues and bluegrass veterans rescued from oblivion by earnest revivalists. The Ash Grove was where you heard the roots, traditional stuff, says Jackson Browne, then an Orange County teenager. Lots of people went to both clubs, but you didn't stand much of a chance of getting hired at the Ash Grove. Another Ash Grove regular was the gorgeous Linda Ronstadt. She had deep, soulful eyes and a big, gutsy voice, and she'd grown up in Arizona dreaming of freewheelin' Bob Dylan. During the Easter break of 1964, Linda followed Tucson beatnik Bob Kimmel out to the coast, moving into a small Victorian house on the beach at Santa Monica. The whole scene was still very sweet and innocent at this point, Ronstadt recalls. It was all about sitting around in little embroidered dresses and listening to Elizabethan folk ballads, and that's how I thought it was always going to be. Among Ronstadt's contemporaries were obsessive young folk blues apprentices, kids like Ryland Cooder, John Fahey, Al Wilson. Some of them got so good that they were even allowed to play at the club. Cooder, 16 years old in 1963, backed folk pop singers Pamela Poland and Jackie DeShannon. The nascent Canned Heat, a blues band formed by Wilson after Fahey had introduced him to Man Mountain singer Bob Haidt, played at the club. The scene was just tiny, Ry Cooder reflects. It was by and for people who were players, not for the general public. Ed Pearl was some sort of socialist, whereas Doug Weston was just an opportunist club owner. We'd go down in the evening, mostly on the weekends. At that point, Ed must have had a supply line, because he had Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee, and he had Lightning Hopkins and Mississippi John Hurt, and then Skip James. Sleepy John Estes was the one I was waiting to see. He seemed the most remote and peculiar, and I'd assumed dead. Ash Grove regulars looked down their noses at the Troubadour coterie, but it was at the Troubadour that the times were truly a-changing. The Ash Grove was supposed to be the more authentic place, but it was at the Troub that you really heard authentic regional music, says Ronstadt. For Henry Tad Diltz of the Modern Folk Quartet, it all came out of the scene at the Troubadour. Yet the MFQ had trouble breaking out of the region to the rest of America. None of the local record companies was truly alert to what was going on under their noses. The business for the kind of music we were playing then was all on the East Coast, says Chris Darrow, a folk bluegrass multi-instrumentalist whose Dry City Scat Band